What up, Sauce Gang, and welcome back to the channel. Hot Sauce Beats here with another dope Matt Pat reaction. That is right, we are getting back into Game Theory's Minecraft lore. I know it's been a hot minute, but they just dropped a brand new one this weekend, which we reacted to, and it reminded me, fam, we gotta get back into this. So we are picking back up right where we left off, and we are peeping out Minecraft has a zombie virus infecting the overworld. And that's pretty much true because there's a lot of zombies, and the only way that you could spread that is with the zombie virus. So you're kind of stating the obvious, Captain Obvious. But no, I'm seriously hyped for this. I love this series, and I love hearing what he thinks about Minecraft lore, and it's all believable to me. I've bought in. I've bought in, chat. But before we jump into it, show Matt Pat some love by subscribing to his channel, and if you enjoy my reaction, please help support the channel by smashing that subscribe and like button. It's absolutely free and it greatly helps out the channel. But enough talking, let's get to reacting and roll that bomb message.
Hot Sauce Beats is finally here. Hot Sauce Beats is finally here. Eat, sleep, make beats. Eat, sleep, make beats.
Hot Sauce Beats. Woo woo. Oh, Bonesaw is ready.
Ugh, I am so done with literally every game being a zombie survival game. I get it, The Walking Dead was a popular franchise.
I already see where he's gonna tie this into, right? It's a zombie survival game
Ted
too.
called, they want their genre back. Give me something new, you know?
Totally. Hey, you want to go gather some
Totally.
resources?
Sure.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine. You're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because
I'm not gonna feel bad for him.
Hello, Internet. Welcome to Game Theory, where we're all blockheads. Before we begin today's episode, a quick reminder that this Tuesday, December 1st, is the big show that I have been hyping up for the last month. We are doing our big $1 million challenge to benefit St. Jude Children's Research Hospital and their mission of ending childhood
We are a
cancer.
little late
It is
for
a
this.
stream that has been
He
a
does this
year
every year,
in
right?
the making. A stream that'll feature favorite creators of yours like Mr. Beast, Marquez Brownlee, Jaden Animations,
That's
Pokimane,
awesome.
and Minecraft Speedrunner Dream. Tune in for a massive all-day show
That's
featuring
epic.
video games, really embarrassing challenges, a lot of fun surprises along the way, just something that you are not gonna want to miss. It is a new show every hour on the hour. It is very
Oh, wow.
elaborate, but man, is it gonna be fun. Okay, so today we're gonna be talking about some of the changes that were added with the Nether update earlier this year, and then using that information to go back and
that
examine
was-
one of the oldest parts
that
of
was 2
Minecraft,
years ago.
the zombies.
'Cause, yeah, he did- I know he did
Zombies are
another
such
one
an
last year.
omnipresent part of pop culture nowadays that it's easy to overlook them, which is kind of ironic considering what made them explode onto the scene in the first place was how horrific they were. And now they're mundane
50
again,
years
such
ago.
as the Circle of Life or the Circle of Undead. It's a circle of undead. And of course, the zombie jockeys are just always
It's a
terrifying. Those things
circle
will
of
mess you up.
undead.
Anyway, in all of my exploration of Minecraft lore up to this point, I've tended to skip over them for exactly that reason. They're just kind of there. Meh, generic hostile mob. In a world full of fire-breathing dragons, three-headed withers, exploding moss monsters, and teleporting Slendermen, there's just so many other cooler things to talk about. Zombies are just very easy to overlook.
No, I was about to say, other things to talk about. Who doesn't like a good case of the zombies? I know I enjoy zombies. Are they overdone a little bit? Yeah. Are they in Minecraft? No. Yeah, I mean, especially when you get a horde of zombies, fam, that is some pretty scary stuff.
But you know
Run.
what? That was dumb of me.
Run.
Short-sighted. Because they are the bedrock upon which Minecraft is built. In a very literal sense. These guys have been a part of the game since the beginning in update
wow.
0.2.0. So if anything has an importance to the
They're
lore,
the OG
it's
mob.
probably them. And you know what?
They're
They
the
do.
OG
With some of the
OG
updates
mob.
made to the Nether, I believe we now have some very interesting leads as to what zombies are and how they play into the overall narrative of the game. Today we're talking about how the zombies and other zombified mobs might
it's
just
just
be
what,
the most
Steve
important
that got a
clues for
virus, right?
discovering what may have pushed an ancient race of builders to flee the overworld and live in the end. One of the things that
Zombies.
sent me down this rabbit hole was reading Minecraft the Island, an official
Hey, chat, have any of you guys ever read this? Like, I think this is the second or third time he's referenced this. It's a New York Times bestseller. I'd be down. I'd read it. Ugh, I'm lying, I wouldn't read it. I'd buy an audio. Actually, I'm gonna see if they got an audio.
Minecraft novel. Yes, in absence of new FNAF books, I've now moved on to Minecraft novels. Yeah, I'll get to you guys too. Maybe. Anyway, the book was a surprisingly compelling read. I have expected this to be some lazy video game tie-in novel, but it's so much more than that. For one thing, it's written by Max Brooks, who you might know as the author of World War Z, one of the best zombie apocalypse stories in recent
Because the movie was not that good. Not that good at all. And I'm a big Brad Pitt fan. The movie was not that good.
memory. It certainly was enough to get my attention, and once I started reading, it became clear to me that he was chosen to emphasize the horror of Minecraft's world. Take this excerpt. I stopped and backed away. Its clothes were ragged and filthy. Its flesh was mottled green. Its eyes, if you could call them eyes, were nothing but lifeless black points in a flat, unmoving face. Memories flooded my mind. Images of creatures I'd known from stories but had never seen in person. And here it was, approaching me with outstretched arms. Numb with fear, I sprinted for the hill. I wasn't thinking, wasn't planning. Terror drove my every
not
step.
a read for
This
kids.
is a Minecraft book. Like, what? Oh, and by the way, the audiobook is narrated by Jack Black.
Oh, shut up! Yes. Okay. Okay. Is there a... Could I react to that somehow? Could I narrate it? Huh. I wonder if that's a thing.
So, you know, imagine that terrifying passage, but instead of being read by professional YouTuber MattPat, it's being read by professional YouTuber Jablinski Games.
Five Nights at Freddy's. That's where I wanna be.
I love
Professional
Jack Black.
FNAF YouTuber Jablinski Games. So let's begin with what we know about Minecraft zombies. For one thing,
We're
they
checking out that
only
book.
seem to spawn in the
100%.
overworld. There are some reports of them spawning in the Nether, but those are extremely few and can never really be replicated. It's thought to be either a bug or a remnant from some mods, but if they are indeed limited to the overworld, along with their variants like the Husk and the Drowned, that prompts the most obvious question of why? Why do they only exist in the overworld? One explanation I've seen tossed around online would be that the zombies are just zombified villagers, and as such, you'll only find them in places where you find other villagers, aka the overworld. But the fact that zombie villager exists as a separate mob type with its own look kinda throws that theory into the
Completely
bus.
agree. Yeah, I was
Why
about to
do
say,
zombie villagers?
It's literally what I was gonna say. Like, no, there are zombie villagers. Zombies are not zombie villagers.
Villagers look like villagers, and normal zombies look just like us.
Steve.
These zombies seem to be the zombified remains of builders like Steve, and yet, like the
Herobrine.
zombie villagers, these OG zombies, or vanilla zombies, tasty zombies, are only found in the overworld. If zombies
vanilla.
are truly the
Vanilla.
remains of dead players, or a race of ancient builders from the past, or whatever, why wouldn't you find zombies anywhere that Steve-like builders are able to go, like the Nether and the End? It's suspicious. Well, I think
is
the
very
answer to this
sus.
question lies in the behavior
Very
of
sus.
another mob, the zombified piglin. We actually talked about the zombie piglin previously on the channel back
have.
before the
We
1.16
have.
Nether update, and since then there have been some noteworthy new changes with this particular mob. Back when I did my first video on them, there was really no explanation for what could have created humanoid zombie pigs. The only thing that we had to go on was that they spawned when lightning struck near a pig, and since then, as the Mojang team has further developed the piglin mob, it appears as though Minecraft wants that feature removed. Quote from lead creative
Is it
designer
gone?
Jeb on Twitter, @Jeb, will pigs struck by lightning become zombified piglin or regular piglin? Jeb's reply, we will likely remove that feature because it'll work differently. This tells me that even though, as I write this, lightning near a pig still
contraire, mon
spawns a
frère.
zombified piglin, it's more a thing that's been grandfathered in as an Easter egg to OG players, but no longer represents the new lore that they have in mind for this particular mob type. So what spawn mechanic does reflect how piglins, not pigs, canonically become zombified piglins? Visiting the overworld. I'm serious. If you take a piglin out to the overworld or the End, after 15 seconds, they turn into a zombified piglin, just as a result of standing in the overworld and breathing.
I didn't know
and I
how
mean
that's
that
how
literally.
that
It
happened.
seems like the only plausible explanation for what could be happening here. That the piglins, upon traveling to the overworld, begin breathing in something that just magically turns them from a perfectly
virus.
well-functioning living creature creature
The
into
zombie
a flesh-starved
virus.
zombie. It's bizarre. Something about being in the overworld turns piglins into zombies. As I see it, the only explanation for this is some
Makes
sort
sense.
of airborne zombie virus. Now, that might
Apocalypse.
seem crazy at first. After all, we and the villagers are all able to run around in the overworld all day, breathing in the same air without turning into zombies. So what
Woozah.
gives? Well, that question is best answered by turning to some very real and some very tragic history. As you might have
God.
learned in your history class,
History
when
lessons.
European colonists came to America and started interacting with the native population, it didn't go well for the indigenous Americans. In fact, it's estimated that over 90% of indigenous Americans were killed in the decades that followed. It's just horrific. But why I bring this up today is how they died. Because while the Europeans that settled in America certainly did kill plenty of indigenous Americans in warfare, most were killed by diseases such as
That we brought.
smallpox,
Yep.
measles,
That's
and
very true.
influenza. Diseases that were common in Europe, but completely new to the indigenous population of the New World. In many cases, they weren't even getting these diseases from people who were displaying symptoms of the sickness. The European explorers were asymptomatic carriers of the diseases, a concept that, in 2020, a lot of us have become all too familiar with. These were all diseases that Europeans
the
had been
truth?
dealing with for generations, and with each passing generation, the people who managed to survive dying from some terrible epidemic passed on their antibodies and immunities to their descendants. With each
You're welcome.
generation,
You're
Europeans
welcome,
gained
young ones.
stronger and stronger immune systems,
thank
which
you,
meant that
grandparents.
formerly devastating diseases were no
Gracias.
longer quite so deadly. So when the Europeans brought these diseases to the New World, exposing a population whose ancestors had no opportunity to build up those same immunities, the results were
Death,
devastating.
plagues.
But there's a part of this story that might strike some people as a gaping hole. Why weren't the Europeans having the same problem? They too were in a new land encountering new people. Why weren't the colonists dying of the American diseases? Well, the answer is cities. Europeans lived in densely packed cities, which were breeding grounds for infection. Another thing that we've seen pretty darn clearly in 2020. I don't know if you've heard about this one. Looks like a lot of people are still missing the memo, but big gatherings of people all packed
Jeez,
together in a tight.
It is really crazy to think that COVID started over 2 years ago. Jeez. That's crazy to think about. I mean, really, it's crazy.
Space are one of the easiest ways to spread a virus, go figure. Social distancing starts to get a whole lot harder when you're all packed together like sardines. And all of that gets compounded
And no
far
one likes
worse when you don't have
sardines.
modern conveniences
No one.
like plumbing and clean water. If you want an indication of how big a problem water contamination was during this time, it took until 1535 to finally prohibit people from dumping their excrement into the River Thames of London. Yeah, they had to pass a law outlawing you from dumping your poop into the water that ran through its most populous city. Reports from the time say that the water ran black. Really makes you want to reconsider that Riverview property, huh? All of these factors combined to make European cities a breeding ground for all kinds of horrible diseases. North America, meanwhile, with its lack of densely populated cities, stood in stark contrast, and hence the indigenous people of North America had no plagues. All of that is a fascinating and frankly tragic look at history, but what relevance does it
What
have
happened to the
in
piglins?
Minecraft? Well, understanding the history of diseases and plagues in the real world, it becomes a lot easier for us to understand how this might happen in the fictional world of
I'm 100%
Minecraft.
buying
Let's
this.
just assume for a minute that there is a zombie plague floating around in the air of Minecraft's overworld and end. We don't know how it would have started or why. Maybe it was the result of experiments trying to resurrect the dead, like we've talked about in a previous theory. Maybe
always
it was
on the
somehow
villagers.
tied to the appearance of the Wither. Who knows? But let's just say
It's
that
always
it
their
happened.
fault,
Well, in
Chad.
those early days, it wouldn't be pretty. Those who managed to avoid being turned into zombies would still
Sheesh.
have to deal with the menace of being attacked by the undead. It could very well be that the zombie plague was responsible for wiping out the overworld's population. The reason that the overworld is filled with so many abandoned structures, like the desert pyramids, the jungle pyramids, who knows? Some of the early members of this ancient civilization may have fled to the end to try and escape the plague, like I've been guessing for the better part of the last year. But over successive
Yeah,
generations of
been
natural
doing a good
selection,
job.
the people in the overworld
Touche.
developed stronger immune systems that were resistant to the airborne plague. The villagers of today
we got
are the
that handy dandy
beneficiaries
shield
of
that
those
just
many
blocks 'em.
generations of inherited inherited
It helps.
immunity. They only turn when they're bitten, which makes sense. One of the most important defense mechanisms that we have against infection is our skin, and a bite bypasses that to inject the zombie virus directly into the bloodstream, delivering a viral load high enough to transform some villagers. And for as overthinking and overreaching as that statement might seem, design details of the game seem to support the theory. Some villagers will be zombified when attacked by zombies, while some others appear to be fully immune. 50% of villagers will simply lose health when attacked by zombies and eventually die without ever being turned, which tells
didn't
us
know that.
some are immune or more
They have the
resistant to the
antibodies.
zombie curse. Weird, right?
Or because they're holding a shield that blocks it.
It's an awfully suspicious detail. Why, though, wouldn't a zombie virus exist in the Nether when it's both in the end and the overworld? My guess? Temperature. Warmer climates tend to be better at fending off pathogens, and likewise, when it's colder, viruses are more likely to be spread. That's why you're more likely to get a cold in the winter, the flu in the winter, and why everyone was talking about the second spike of COVID happening during the fall and winter months. One of the reasons your body heats up and develops a fever when you're sick is that certain infections have a harder time surviving at higher temperatures. And what can be hotter than HE double hockey sticks itself? The temperature down in the Nether is high enough to effectively sterilize everything. Nothing says hot quite like pools of lava. This, in turn, would keep the Nether
Spoken
clear
like a
of
true
any
man.
zombie viruses, producing a civilization of piglins whose immune systems never encountered the plague, until, of course, they're brought into the overworld.
15
So there you have it,
seconds.
friends, the invisible zombie virus of the Minecraft overworld.
Let's
For as
go!
ridiculous as it sounds, the science of it actually fits a surprising amount of in-game details and behaviors. Maybe it's time Steve and Alex spend less resources building swords and axes and more time building face masks. After all, it's up to us to protect the immunocompromised hoglins. But hey, that's just a theory. A game theory. Thanks for watching.
Let's
and one
go!
final reminder here that Game Theory merch is available right now.
Oh my
Are running
goodness,
out right
chat. Hold on, let me bring you in, and I'll sing to you while I get on the music. Play. I think this is definitely one of the most believable, hands down, like, I don't even have any questions whether or not he hit this theory on the head, the nail on the head with this theory. However you want to word that, and it makes more sense, you know what I'm trying to say. I like this. I think it's almost kind of like, this theory's like obvious, I guess, if you want to say that. I mean, you know, now that I have all the facts presented to me, I didn't know zombie piglins didn't even exist unless if it's a piglin that comes up within 15 seconds, it's converted, which makes you think that there is a virus in the air down in the Nether, super hot. What about the end though? End's not hot. Why is there not any zombies there? Huh? Maybe it's because they're all dead anyways, right? Isn't technically the Ender Dragon and Enderman technically dead, right? Question mark? Anyways, no, I think he nailed this one right on the head. I really liked it. I believe everything about it. And, you know, I don't know, again, what created the zombies, but I like to think that they're infected, they can bite you, you become infected. It all makes sense. I also didn't know that only 50% of villagers turn when they're bit. I didn't know that. I learned a lot of new things today. I really enjoyed this theory. I'm happy to be back into these. I hope you enjoyed this reaction, and if you did, please help support the channel by smashing that subscribe and like button. It's absolutely free and it greatly helps out the channel. Enjoy the rest of your day. Have a taco. It's Taco Tuesday. And remember, it's eat, sleep, and make beats, and as usual, be kind to one another. And that's all I got. Boom, I'm out. Gonna be love for the sauce gang. Peace out, fam.